Hey everyone, welcome back to another exclusive episode here on the TCG Party Podcast. Unfortunately, with some very dire sad news, Noah will unfortunately not be joining us because
Mm.
of work schedule, and I'm okay with that. But joining me
Yeah.
today, we have about two special guests here. First, let me go ahead and show off my current co-host himself, Mr. Giovanni.
What is up, Kevin?
I'm doing great, doing great. And it seems you invited a couple guests here today, is that correct?
Oh, that is correct. We're bringing back some buddies back from the DBS podcast today to talk about multiple TCG topics and including Dragon Ball Super.
That's correct. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the show by making their official TCG Party podcast because we're separating the shows. We got Joe C. Lowe,
Yo, what's going on, guys? Thanks for having me.
and we have here Cameron G.
What's pop?
It's like they feel like Jeopardy contestants right now.
Do we win money?
No, you get
No.
your you just win your
I'm out.
your dignity back.
Oh, wait, what?
All right.
It left?
All right.
What's that?
All right, so let's get started. So the first topic, gentlemen, Pokemon is going to resume their card games in 2022, as in major tournaments and everything. Gio, what's the update about that?
They made a post the other day stating that Worlds will happen next year in 2022, and it was that they would resume, tournaments and paper next year.
So, well, that basically means that the rotation we're going to have for this year will be moved to next year.
Possibly. We don't know all the details. It's just, it's coming back, basically. I didn't read the full things on the post. They made a Pokemon Play post on Facebook and wherever all the social media that they're on. But, yeah.
Okay.
But
So-
the main part is that they're coming back. And that is exciting news for everybody that plays Pokemon TCG.
Okay. For you gentlemen who might not know, with the rotation in Pokemon, which is being 1 year, which is completely different, a little, but yet a little similar than like Magic's. Pokemon, they had to change around sometimes by their sets, so once that rotation comes in, all those cards that they played previously are discontinued. Though some of them will get reprinted, like their items and supporters, but everything else will just, the Pokemon's effects and everything will be no longer included. So if we find out more information about it, maybe by next week's episode or anything else, or if we hear comments from very viewers that seen the podcast, we'd like to hear it up. Will there be a rotation, maybe like by 2022? I mean, that'd be great. That way, you could continue on from the ending around of Sun and Moon to the continuation of the early days of Sword and Shield. So any updates, we'll be glad to hear. Our next topic, guys, we are having a DBS Banlist production as we are waiting beyond with Bandai releasing the ban list, as well as this week, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has now revealed their July 1st ban list. Let's start things up with the DBS ban list, folks. Any predictions so far that should be banned and limited, and cards that should be out of the list? Let's start.
Well, I guess I'll go first on this, Kevin.
All right.
Since I got a big list, and we know they're dropping it July 17th. People are rushing to sell their cards and stuff. And I myself have a big wish list. And now, if anybody knows me, everybody knows I'm a big aggro player, and I love all the aggressive, oppressive decks out there. But my ban list focuses on what everybody wants. I don't necessarily want to ban Reboot Gohan, but we're doing it for the betterment of the game. Because even in the DBS podcast days, all of us, we've been wanting real ban lists that hits different sort of cards and makes a difference. Bandai has just given us small ban lists here and there outside of like Killing Storm and Killing Universe 3. Rest in peace, guys. We miss you. But
You got some people.
So my ban list is the following. You have Reboot Gohan banned. You have the Vegex leader banned. Or if you don't ban the Vegex leader, you limit the Kai, the Trunks, and the Vegeta to 1. The 6-drop Brawlies from set 11 to 1. Mega Frieza Reboot leader banned.
Bastard.
the drum from the King Piccolo deck to 1, the 5-drop Demigraph from Dropbox 6 banned, the 2-drop Red Green Piccolo Jr. from that same set banned, Catastrophic Blow to 1, the promo Baby Negate to 1.
That's a big list.
Yeah, you tripping.
It's a very big list.
Hey,
It's a very big
it's
list.
a big list.
So I know Bandai has said it's going to be a widespread ban, and if they really, really want to shake up their format, I wouldn't ban any battle cards or anything like that. I would just ban leaders, make the player base use different leaders. I mean, that's probably not going to happen. Like, I agree that Mecha probably should be banned, but like, it's questionable too because he's topping every event, but is he winning every event? No.
But I mean,
If you want to shake up his deck, ban U9 Assemble.
Yeah.
yeah, it's either Mecha or Unite Assemble, which Unite Assemble never did anything before Mecha Frieza appeared again.
Well, you know, a free draw to play a dude is kind of nuts.
Yeah. I was thinking the other day, I was like, I would rather have Shugesh Kid Goku back than keep U9 in the format, to be honest.
I can see that because it's probably not as strong as it used to be.
Yeah, because like at the end of the day, Shugesh doesn't tutor the target out of the deck. Shugesh isn't live on turn 2.
Always. And you tutor any target you want for the convenience of whatever situation you're in at that moment. It's not just like one random. It's not a generic thing that every time you get in the same target, you're getting different targets.
Right, and it's plus. It just draws. Like it's. But why would you run? Like the other thing too is remember Goku 8 was a $100 card. Why would you play Goku 8 when you could play U9? Like U9 has held yellow on his back since it came out. If you didn't play Dog's package, even pre-Mecha, if you didn't play Dog's package, unless it was Sin Shenron, you just shouldn't be playing yellow. You probably shouldn't play yellow outside of Sin Shenron anyway.
Right.
But you play a Dog's package. You've always played Dog's package because of that card. The card.
But is it the card that's cracked, or it's Mecha just making it free? Like if you put U9 in a Gotenks deck, it doesn't do anything.
I've done. Keep going.
I was gonna say, so like the thing is that it's always and forever going to. So you do something to Mecha, then another yellow deck comes out. Like there's no better, especially since yellow has like really bad unisons. There's no better 2-drop. There's really no other. How many other colors even with unisons? Like, would you play a 2-drop unison, say, and like what if green had U9 or blue?
I'd be scared if green had U9, to be honest.
I mean, if blue had U9, that would be pretty nasty.
Yeah, blue already draws enough and untaps enough energy. It doesn't need extra cards. But I understand what you're saying. But it's really like I would challenge anyone to try to put U9 in a deck that doesn't get to play that extra card for free and see if it feels as strong. Because at that point,
I've tested the card in Kefla Surge, and like you gain advantage, but it was nothing like crazy in that deck.
No, it's not crazy. But
I do understand, like you have to like kind of hinder designs of future like leaders or whatnot, because if that card goes over the top. But that's just like a small example. Like even with the Broly 6-drops, are they really that powerful, or is it just Dark Broly being Dark Broly?
And the thing is, I think Dark Broly specifically, like that deck it's hard because the thing is that it really does borderline fair. Like to be honest, like I could see where it's a little bit much. I think hitting the Demigra helps the problem with both Vegex and Dark Broly. So that's
I mean, the thing is that the promo Gogeta is like way better than Demigra, but it's just so expensive. Not everybody has access.
Oh yeah, I mean the promo like.
I don't know. They got thwarting the Dark Empire.
Yeah.
Fair. That's only because it's supply demand. Eventually, people will have their hands on it. The price will drop. We'll be in a new format at that point.
I mean, because like if they're gonna come through with they're saying wide ranging, because they've never said wide ranging before ever. I mean, you got to shift away. You got to shift away from at least 4 or 5 decks. It's got to be different. Like You
Right.
know, I didn't even acknowledge Sin Aggro, which that Investo one is pretty toxic.
Well, where we
Um,
agree, Gio, is I do agree with that Kai. I do think that the super combo Kai going to one, but I don't think the rest of the package, like, but
well, I
I
mean,
agree with
like
that.
it's like one or the other for me. Like if you don't ban the leader, then you know they're all getting hit because the leader's still around. You know,
Well, because the
and
Kai,
you,
it's so generic. Like it helps the problem. That's what I'm saying. Like I could agree with like problems going across the board, right? Because like it's one of the things that can make Black toxic, right? Is that Kai because the Kai, like before we had a lot of the D-Bro support that we have now, you know, you'd see a lot of lists. And I'm sure that you, even if they didn't put the full Vegex package and the new Massian leader, the starter deck one, they'd for sure put a set of the Kai in there.
well, yeah, but the thing is, they need to tell the new Massane leader, and you know, like if Dark Brawly and Vegix are running around, nobody's ever going to play that. So, like, you know that something's going to happen in that regard because they have to sell the starter deck. And there's a lot of people that are fans that played the deck in set three, including myself and Noel, so I'll shout him out. You know, it's like they gotta, for once in their lives, can they handle the problems of, you know, of everything that they've created? We need a list that actually does something and changes. You know, it forces a change. It forces people off these decks. Like, not. It's almost like their hits are like rotation. Like they're forcing people to new things. And
I'd
if
rather
we're
have rotation, to be honest.
I mean, here's the problem with
I'd
that,
rather have
Geo.
rotation.
Like, as good as a list you want to put up, you also have to remember that Bandai doesn't really give out all the actual lists. Like, yes, they have started listening to us, but you never know if they are still listening because at the same time, you could probably send that list to them. People probably may agree or disagree. They might put their own list. They might send them their Facebooks, the Twitters, whatever you're gonna, or Reddits or anything. And Bandai probably ain't gonna listen to any of them. You might get at least one or two cards there, but you might end
Well,
up getting like
I mean, the
about
thing
two
is that
cards.
Bandai made this post after somebody said, "Hey, Bandai, could you look into these cards?" So they're clearly looking, and they're clearly paying attention. So I mean,
But are they
it,
really paying attention? Is the real question because you don't know what's gonna happen
we'll
until.
know July 17th. That's when we're gonna know.
Okay, and if
Yeah,
it
Bandai
does come out,
think
but it's
that
only like about a few cards, or if it's gonna be like a list of cards, but it's cards that you really didn't expect of like to be there on that list. I mean, how would you even
I
feel
mean,
with it?
we got one of those in the last list. I forget what card it was, but it was just it came out of nowhere and got banned. So yeah, they could
but
do
here
that.
while we're on this, so this is what I want to touch on though, because I could see like if it was me, right? Obviously, it's probably not gonna be anywhere near what I'm thinking. You know, I pick and poke at these little things, thinking about it from my perspective. But my perspective also, given the entire direction that the game has gone in, right? Hitting the things that people are talking about. They're talking about Debro, talking about Vegix. I could see a couple little fringe things like the Demigrub, maybe limiting Kai and Champa to one each so you can still play two because most it doesn't really affect the game. It just affects abusing, maxing on fucking, or my bad, maxing on, you know, Kai in the deck so you can spam 30 doubles. Like that's an evolution. I could see like maybe
What
one
about
iteration on one.
Sensubin?
Sendu means fine. But like
Everyone says
my
the same thing. Centipede's fine. Centipede's
yeah,
fine. Centipede's fine. It's never a
like
retouch, guys.
yeah, like the thing is that with if we hit say the main three focuses I hear is Debro, Vegex, Mecha, right?
And
Now
King
mind
Piccolo.
you, KP a little bit too. Now mind you, the format as far as my study of the format is that even though Mecha representation is a bit high right now, it's pretty diverse. Every color has a deck that's topping. We haven't seen this since like set 6. So my issue is that hitting, say these right here. These are some of the things that we see on top tables, right? Is these now, mind you, we're talking about red, black, yellow, right? Green starting to pop up too. Baby still
King
around.
Cold.
Yeah, yeah, yep. So when we hit these though, the thing is that the whole game has gone in a different direction. So we hit these, and now we're in a situation where we're trying to push. Like, if I'm going to be real, that Mass Sand leader doesn't look that impressive. The Vegeta's like kind of okay-ish, but then we're in a situation where King Vegeta, Red Broly, right? the things
Red
that are
Brawley's lurking. He's hoping
right,
everything gets hit, and then he comes
yeah,
back, and he's the best deck in the format.
right. The things that the direction we're pushing it is in like an even more toxic. It's kind of like what they did with the Yu-Gi-Oh ban list when they just said we're getting rid of the format, we're getting rid of Thunder, Sky Striker, Salad, like all the things that let other rogue decks come up too during that format when they went to Master Rule 5. When they decided, no, we're going to get rid of the format and like ban something from all the top decks, then it turned into just a 2 deck format. It was just Emancipator versus Eldritch for like 3 months, and then they had Emancipator, and it was
Oh
Eldritch and
yeah,
Tridrar.
Emancipator was like the most boring 20-minute turn deck I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
Speaking of,
and that's what we're going into. You know what I mean?
well,
Like, if you hit the top deck, I'm gonna tell you right now, Red Broly. People be sleeping on Blue Janemba slash variants of skill list, like all the gas and all the free plays that have been given to other things that they still have.
Majin
Rogue,
Vegeta.
yeah, Majin Vegeta. Like there are things that are waiting that are it's gonna be even more toxic.
I mean,
It's gonna
Sin
be
Shenron will be very good. It has been good, and
yeah.
now the Bojack deck is a good deck. It's just fair compared to all these top decks. If they all get hit, that deck gets better too.
I mean, I've seen BoJack. I've seen BoJack plus Skillless Gohan, plus baby stuff in Soul Striker.
Yeah,
Like,
Soul Striker will probably maybe even get used more. Launch. There's not that much launch in this set 13, so maybe some people flock to that.
I just think, I think part of the issue is that we do have a problem with Mecha. I think Mecha has pushed a lot of the other things out, and I think people are really trying to abuse Mecha as much as possible. So like that's where the representation is getting
and it's
skewed.
not even Reboot Gohan gatekeeping anymore because that deck is only best of three and not and what one person out of maybe two people out of a set event is gonna run that. So Mecha's kind of gatekeeping right
It's like
now.
Invoker, right? Invoker's still good, but you're bored. You've been playing it for like almost 2 years. You know what I'm
Well, this
saying?
is
Like you,
this is going to bring up an interesting point later that we're going to touch on. Do we really want this diversity, which we push for? Because when DBS started, we had these square and triangle formats, which I think were great for the game, and now we're all super diverse. Or do we want to go back to square and triangle, where you prepare for the decks, you see them, and you don't get screwed? We're going to touch on that later, but it's an interesting point because they have to do something for this game, and this is gonna maybe sound a little controversial, but Digimon's kicking their ass right now, in every shape, way, and form. If I've ever rubbed the Dragon Ball Super player wrong after saying that, listen, there's a reason the Digimon's getting 40, 45, 46, 48, 50-man locals across the country. When's the last time a Dragon Ball local got those high numbers outside of Texas, California, Florida?
Even the
Um,
online events for Digimon are blowing up.
they sell out at 256, 256. There's clear, and maybe it's because you could get singles and it's a cheaper get in. Yes, I know sealed is obnoxious like Dragon Ball Super, but that's not the point. The point is that more casuals play that game. They don't play Dragon Ball. So if Dragon Ball is just a competitive game, a niche one at this point,
Yeah.
then we need to do something on this ban list to reflect the fact that that's what this card game is.
It also needs
Because
to be less promo oriented as well. Like to play top tier decks. Like when King Piccolo first came out, getting the Piccolo Junior negate and whatnot, it was a hassle.
and the other Piccolo promo that some people played, yeah.
Correct. Yeah, and now like with Black decks, the Gogeta, which is almost impossible to get. King Vegeta, each of his promos are what itching around $100.
Well, they were and they're in the 50s to 70s, and and the high end one is almost 100, but still it's still a lot of money because at the end of the day
Right.
you're still dropping anywhere from 700 to 1,000 if you
Right.
don't have a good one.
How much is the Digimon deck?
Red
Maybe
Omni,
maybe
Red Omni.
200.
Well, yeah, maybe 200. Red Omni was the only deck that was in the thousands last format, but this format, War Greymon's probably a $400 or $500 deck, depending if you get Lucimons and you get everything, and you have Pulse ones.
Oh yeah,
at that point.
Pulsemon's expensive, but Pulsemon was a free promo that they handed out.
Yeah, and
I
Green
mean,
OTK is
that
another.
upsets me a lot. Like
Green
the way
OTK is another deck that's like $400-500, but like the
Oh,
average deck,
okay. Well, that Palmon's
200.
that might be a little bit hard to come by.
Yeah,
I kind of want to.
but like the average deck is like 200, like 100, 200.
But if you buy a box of Digimon, you get return on your investment more
You
so
get
than you
you a
buying a
thousand
box of
percent.
Dragon
You get
Ball.
a
Yeah.
1,000% return.
so like here's what I'll say, on the Digimon and DBS too,
I
because
mean, what do you think the top DBS players are invading Digimon now? We see MRG playing in these webcams now. Like,
well, it's just
tell me
less
this.
sweaty. It's a casual. It's less competitive. We've discussed that. Digimon is not a competitive game at all. Not to say it's bad for that, but
I think the competitiveness is when we get to the in-person events because they're teams just like Dragon Ball. And they grind this game. I
design.
think
I mean, I'm just on the core design. Like the game is not like
Yeah, the
I
design is not meant to be a competitive
yeah.
standpoint because
It's not yeah. It's a cat.
I mean, but could we
Like
argue?
it's kind of like
Could we argue that Set One Dragon Ball wasn't that competitive of the box either?
you know what, that's fair.
absolutely
I
absolutely
mean, yeah, that's true.
absolutely.
Like set one, a
Like
little bit of set two was like
the
I
thing
started
is
getting
that
competitive.
Dragon Ball is a lot less competitive than 9 out of 10 people want to make it act like it's the highest echelon.
People think that this game is like behind Magic in terms of like complexity, in
We
terms of
don't. We,
interaction.
I don't think we're talking about Magic on this podcast and its competitive environment.
You
Like
know, like some.
I mean, the truth of the matter is, guys, is that one of the reasons also why Digimon's more entertaining than Dragon Ball. How many promo cards have to be come out in every set of Digimon? None. No,
Just
because you don't have to.
just
Because we don't
Pokemon,
need. Because the thing,
just
because
Pokemon
I'm gonna
and
be
the power
you
up
can
pack.
have one or two. We can have like
it's
a one or two or
actually
three. Not a big deal. But here's the
no.
problem: the
I don't
every
think that's true. That's not true. 'Cause relative to the size of the set, because you got to remember, Digimon sets are only 150 cards, if that, right?
The
So
next Dragon Ball set is like almost 300.
right.
Yeah,
That's
So
so
yeah,
insane.
but like
when you're
here's the
talking,
problem though. Dragon Ball has to have you say, yeah, you gotta get this promos, guys, because it's required for these decks. Oh, you gotta play meta. Okay, well you're gonna need this promo card. Then you gotta go the old school promo. Oh, we're gonna have to. So you want that
yeah.
promo, but we don't have enough. Sorry, guys, we're just gonna raise the price up a bit. It's
I mean,
ridiculous.
there's more brew to the Digimon game. This is true. You can do. There's not as much like if your leader is Dark Broly or if you have this and that or all the leader
They
Or the
combos and
they
all
Monster
the
give
abilities
the
Vegetas
that
and all that
Digimon
stuff.
that's
players
on the
what the
card.
Dragon Ball players have been asking for a while: generic decks that they could invent and brew themselves, which
Yeah.
they're never gonna get
I
that.
mean, like I said, you can have promo cards sometimes. You don't, but you don't need it like all the fucking time because
Well,
it doesn't have.
Digimon's mostly promo cards are alt arts. You don't need them. You
I
could
think
play
I
like you
mean,
could
so.
have an
The
well,
thing for
there you
me,
easy,
go. But like, I mean, yeah.
easier, cheaper version of a card and be able
I
to
think they
play.
trapped us. I think they trapped us with that promise because, to be honest, when you're talking about with the box itself, there's a 6 card promo, like rollout right there. Every box has you have a roll right there. Then you have the TP packs, right? Aside from the alt art, we also have the TP packs, the one that had the Diaboromon and those Devimons, and then the current TP set that had the current Devimons, and then you also have the on top of that the dash packs that they just did, right? And then they have the Pulsemon rollout, right? So when you're talking about relative to the size of the set, 6 cards relative to an only 150 card set, you're talking about, well, that's somewhere in the realm of, well, that's just those 6 cards. Then another 3. So let's just say that's 10 total, right? 6 plus 3 plus another 1. So that's 10 out of 150, right? So you're talking about 8% of the set isn't in the set.
So at least
For Dragon Ball,
for
yeah.
Digimon's sake, because we're actually trying to catch up to the Japanese meta and what they have released, which is why we had BT1 and 1.5. That was sets 1, 2, 3.
Right.
They're trying to give us all the cards that get one. So yeah, the Diaboromon, which is actually super important for a deck that comes out in BT4. For those that are familiar with the BT4 the BT5 format, that's the only exception. because I don't know who has those cards anymore. They're probably lost and forgotten to time at this point.
I have them. Speaking of,
Good for you, Blue.
I have.
but for the most part, after that, everything's just an alt art. Like, for the events that are being played in July, like you win an alt art Omnimon. That Omnimon's going to be expensive as hell, but you don't need that Omnimon.
Can't wait to talk about those events later on in this episode. You know,
I think we have to get to the. I think we have to get to the Yu-Gi-Oh ban list though,
I think
because I'm pretty
Geo's
sure.
I mean,
is
let's
more
finish-
hyped to talk about the main stuff because he only cares about his main stuff more than we talk about.
No, I'm excited for this ban list. Like, I really want.
I'm
Dragon
excited for
Ball-
paper Pokemon, but we skipped that. We're past that topic already.
I mean, like, I want Dragon Ball to do something. Like, enough of these like false promises already. Like, we we love you, Bandai, but like at the same time, it's like
They need
How
to
many
change set
times-
design.
Is it really a false promise, or is it just because like a mass majority of the player base just wants what they want? Like Bandai has to do what it has to do.
I mean,
It might be a mix of both.
how many times are we gonna have Goku, Vegeta, Gogeta,
Frieza.
Main characters of the series. Like
Yeah.
how many times are we going to have Agumon and Gabumon?
Always.
Exactly.
I mean,
But
like
the
it's the
thing is,
same
the
thing. How
thing-
many Pikachu's, Charizards, how many Metagross?
Oh well, there's never enough Charizards.
There's
How dare
never
you.
enough.
Okay,
But you all
the
know,
thing
we
is-
I'd rather have a Charizard than a shit ton of Gokus in my house. Am I right?
So
Correct.
that's fair.
But
Because
the
there's
thing
literally
is,
only one Goku. Like Charizard at least has.
But the thing is, Agumon and Gabumon get decks in BT6. They don't have actual quote-unquote decks right now. Goku
Oh, that's
has
fair.
how many decks right now?
I mean,
Well,
is,
you
isn't
can't create
Lineage
more
the only
characters
real Goku deck?
outside of DBS Heroes, which is what the black cards have been
I
based
mean,
off.
how
of.
many
I
Goku?
mean, it's
how many
been
Goku
great.
leaders are there?
Enough.
It's been great they've been using Heroes and Xenoverse because I played Score Dragon Ball Z and like it followed the anime and it died right after it died in the GT era when they released a broken Brawly Seeker rare that kind of crushed that game. But that's
Well,
not the point.
Well, like at this point, it's really just like Dragon Ball sets go based off of like Z, regular Dragon Ball Super, and then Dragon Ball Heroes, and then random villain from one of those things.
It's like what
Yeah,
GT
so-
could have been, basically.
But what do you think what do you think absolutely needs to get hit in this list?
Absolutely, leaders, just leaders. You need to remove leaders because
I don't
people are
think
still going to be
you can.
attracted to using them, and they're the reason why decks are overpowered.
Yeah, but the problem is, if you're talking about Dark Broly, for example, like you're banning all of those cards. All of those cards say if your leader's Dark Broly.
That's fine.
You just want Dark Broly banned, don't you?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I actually really enjoy the Dark Broly deck.
Well, why
because
don't you
it's
just?
not-
You don't have to ban it. You could just errata it.
Erratas are too complicated unless you're going to print a new copy of the card.
The modern player hates erratas because I played Score like I just said, and we had 8 to 10 pages of erratas we had to carry because I was a judge in that game, and we didn't care. But the Dragon Ball Super players, they hate erratas. Let's be real. Like
If you errata it, you're essentially banning it. No one's going to play it. Mine is Heartfelt Plea because his errata was weird. It was just like a wording issue thing.
Do we ban Heartfelt Plea on this list?
I think so. Yeah.
I think so.
Why do you think so? And then I'll give my counter argument.
Because heartfelt plea it's always on the edge, right? Heartfelt plea is the one thing that takes a play that was already a lot of value, and then just for no cost, it's just like it's heartfelt plea is basically it's one-time use, sure, but it's pot of greed. In terms of
Essentially.
value, it's pot of greed.
And if it's not what I agreed, the opponent just made themselves in double strike range and they're about to die.
I think he meant. I think you mean if you don't know, ask what does this card do? Then you know it ain't no pot of greed.
Correct.
That is fair. So the reason why Heartfelt Plea, in my opinion, does not need to be banned is A, you need a specific setup. Is that setup hard to do? No. But you do need to follow a guideline and have a 25k red card, I believe.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so like that eliminates Topo, which is like an easy like get this out, whatnot, and then like you could really essentially only do it on your turn unless you had a 25k previously, and it's essentially a secret rare in a sense. It doesn't have that same power because you can only use it once. So what's banning it really gonna do? You can only drop it once outside of paying 5 for it, but most of the decks currently do not run red yellow, so it's just like they kind of sneak it out.
I mean,
Yeah,
the only reason Dark Brawly runs it is because of that 7-drop Brawly that was introduced in the Ultimate deck.
If that card wasn't red, we wouldn't have this conversation right now.
I think kind of ish, but it's one of those things. It's kind of like it's along the theme of what I've been thinking with my, like, I guess Banlist thoughts is that, like, okay, U9 is something that has slightly been on the edge. Now it's found a way to be a problem, right? U9 is one of those cards you look at it and you're like, what? Plea is one of those cards that you look at and you're like, what? And its time comes. And it's like Demigra is the other one, right? I mean, the Alliance Piccolo,
Demigod probably should be limited in some way, shape, or form because
it's got
the way that decks operate to fill their drop area to be able to
Well,
get out this.
I got a great one for you guys. How about limiting or banning Belmod?
I mean, I think anything that's played for free is an issue because it requires zero resource management. Especially easy stuff like that.
It's an extender. I mean, I don't. The thing is, in the current scope of the game, right? Like, you know, say I was explaining to someone the other day, right? And they're like, well, you know, Janemba doesn't do anything. I was telling them about the Janemba deck, right? Because people ask me about suggestions for blue decks, and I'm like, they're like, well, it doesn't do anything until turn 3. I'm like, no, I can make 8 attacks on turns 1 and 2, and then on turn 3, yes, I make another 8 crits for free. So, like, one body that you have to sack your whole field to for 20 in the context of the current game, as much as it's like, okay, Plea, which I just argued against, Belmod is just a blocker. He doesn't have that value that Plea does. Plea's like,
he's a blocker that removes a guy.
Yeah, like
he has some value. He's a 4-for-1 though. Like you have to get rid of 3 of your battle cards. You lose a card in hand to get rid of one of their battle cards. So like I get it.
The economy on him isn't great. It's not good economy. Whereas like the whatever that 25K is, 25K plus is, it literally it did its job before you sacked it. So you didn't. It's not a loss in economy. You just
right. As a sidebar, not to cut you off, and I apologize.
No, go ahead.
If the battle cards didn't have haste, would that essentially fix the game itself because some of the cards wouldn't be as overpowered?
I think if we were to try and play the game without haste, or my other thought I've had on the game is if you defensively comboed out, the losing battle card would die.
That's also a good point too.
Yeah, like if losing battle cards died, because it's like you just sacked your hand and you did it just to do it, just to not die. There's no other. It's kind of like what when me and Gio discussed security versus drive check, right? It's about the change in a game design of something that's a risk versus something that's an opportunity. So you turn defensive comboing from a risk into an opportunity.
Right.
So it skews it in favor.
You'll be more inclined to combo out if they attack a battle card.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as what you do.
It wouldn't work if they attacked your leader, though. That's too much.
Yeah, leader might be a bit much on that, but.
Alright. Yu-Gi-Oh! Banlist.
Alright, gentlemen. If you go ahead and open up your messengers, you can go ahead and read the list as I read along. The Yu-Gi-Oh! Banlist was released Monday. It is going to be officiating on July 1st. So notify for all the Yu-Gi-Oh! Players. We'll be glad to go ahead and review it right now. First things first is the banned. We have 2 cards banned. First one is the Link Monster Gar Dragon Agripain. It is
good riddance.
It is now entered. It is now entered the ban list, so it's brand new to join.
It was LP. Agripain's been banned. It was LP.
Exactly.
Just you know, yeah.
Okay, and if we got
Go on.
All right, and our second card, now officially being banned, was been limited since back in the time of 2017, and now joins his brothers, the XE monster Zodiac Dryden. Thank God, good riddance.
Yes.
Well, it got banned because there's a new card that would have just made that card absolutely busted in half.
Well, fuck Zodiacs. Our next set, our next one, guys, is limited, and this one hurts Geo more than anything. Now limited, Miscellaneous Saurus.
Konami, why do you do this to me? You ensure that I just won't go back immediately or, dabble as much,
Because
This one hurts me a
because you
little.
don't deserve to play dinosaurs, sir. You don't deserve to play.
You got
It's-
DVDs, man. The
Oh,
whole
yeah, I'm
catalog
going to
of.
play that. Yeah, you know that, Cam. But, my favorite deck.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
this one to all the Eric Ramones out there. For the first time now, ever since being banned, it is now limited. Performapal Skull Crobat Joker. Welcome back, man. That card, guys, I know that you never play Yu-Gi-Oh, but I gotta tell you, man, when Pepes were the biggest threat during the Pendulum era, and during the games of Yu-Gi-Oh and the mechanic, it was busted. I mean, you don't need. I mean, forget Burning Abyss, forget Shaddolls, forget Stellar Knights, forget Keyforge, forget Necrozes, Cosmos, forget them. Pepe's was the most dangerous deck, and it was all thanks to Joker. And we also had like Monkey Keyboard and stuff. But Joker was one of the reasons. It was their Stratos. It was basically pretty stupid. It basically made the whole deck work its way out.
I mean, I'm surprised they brought it back.
Bringing,
Uh,
I mean, at the time, since Pendulums is not big, I mean, I couldn't understand. But at the same time,
I mean,
it's kind of
I'm
fearful
pretty sure
because
they're
now guys are
they've
gonna see this
summoned.
card again, and they're hoping that Pepe's make a comeback one day, and that's a scary thought.
I mean, they kind of want, Electromite back, too.
Yeah, I'm saying I'm pretty sure they're selling metal foes in either the current set or the next set. So
I mean, you can imagine Pendulums and Links being together with more Exceeds and Synchros coming in, and then this just being ridiculous. I mean, Konami doesn't even care. Konami, this list just shows Konami doesn't care. But I'm going to read on well and why they don't care. Our next card being limited, guys, is a Link monster known as Striker Dragon, now officially entering the list.
okay.
All right. Next card,
Like
we have.
I was just about to put another in my deck too. I was about to bump it. I had it at 1. I was about to put it at 2 in my deck.
Okay.
Right.
Our next card, XE Monster Salaman Great My Rage's Talio, which was banned, now being
I
entered in
mean,
limited.
Salad's going to probably come back a little.
Our boy Stevie is a huge salad deck player.
Oof.
I like salads.
Caesar salad, ranch, chicken. What type of salad?
Those, because I don't know what salad is in Yu-Gi-Oh, to be honest.
It's
Oof.
salamence, was basically like a salmon.
Oh, salamanders. I like salamanders also. They're cool reptiles. But
Yeah,
carry on.
yeah. And
Don't let me interrupt.
no, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, we're gonna call it salad decks, but I mean, because Stevie could use a salad deck if you know what I mean.
Heyo.
And
Ooh.
of course,
Eat your greens, kids.
And of course, guys, why it's getting dumb, and Moses even tells me about this, Geo. Now returning out of the ban list, now limited, Sky Striker, Mobilize, Engage.
This is the hottest deck on the secondary market right now. This deck is super expensive again, just with this one card coming back
Why,
off the list.
why don't you explain to Joe why this card and the deck, it's the archetype of the deck, is busted?
I'm with
I
it.
mean, it's basically like Tournament of Power for Invoker. It's basically like the Yu-Gi-Oh version of Invoker.
Oh, it's Sensei's Divining Top.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not fair.
Would you
It's
like?
also pot of greed.
It's yeah. So I kind of read the card. It's pretty.
Wait. It's a card that lets you rearrange the top and draw cards?
Yep.
Oh, why is that? What? Why would they do that?
If you want to know what it really states, Gio, why don't you go ahead and read the card, and the whole text, and then just tell him so he could literally just be like, "Fuck this game."
I mean, I was already at that point before the explanation. I haven't played Yu-Gi-Oh since Chaos Emperor Dragon.
So chaos format then.
Yeah.
Big goats, probably, right?
I
Oh
love
no,
goats.
goats was after. Goats was after
Well-
chaos because chaos got banned and then it was goats.
Yeah, pretty much. Around the same time, though.
Here we go. If you control no monsters in your main monster zones, add one Sky Striker card from your deck to your hand, except engage itself. Then, if you have 3 or more spells in your graveyard, you can draw 1 card.
Is that when it's
Mine just
played?
says, huh?
Is that when it's played, or is it like
Yeah.
a field spell?
No, it's just a normal spell. It's not a field spell.
So
And
like
then
turn 1, you could just be like grab a dude, draw a card. If you somehow play 2 other
No, no,
spells.
listen. So it says Sky Striker cards. So you could, all these cards, all these spells are Sky Striker in the name. So it used to be you could grab Sky Striker engage with the engage. So you could do all 3 engages, draw 3 cards. Yeah, it's pretty fun deck.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's also a secret rare too, so.
That you know what? That rarities of cards do not matter to people that want to play competitively.
I mean, its rarity explains why it got banned because it's
Okay,
too
well
stupid.
that is fair.
Because if you think about it, most of these banned cards are either ultra rares or mostly a lot of them are secret rares, and you can hardly find any rares or commons and stuff because of depending on like how the deck can run it. But most of them are ultras and secrets.
Okay, that's fair.
All right, and for our semi-limited list, that's 2 cards. That means you're going to play 2 cards, Joe. Only 1 card, and that is Double Iris Magician, which was once limited, now back to being at 2.
they really want Pendulum Magician to come back, I see.
And finally, Unlimited, now leaving from being limited, now back to being 3. Symbol of Heritage, the equipped spell card.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
And that's pretty much it of the ban list, guys. So what are your thoughts on this?
I like it. LP had to go, Dryden had to go. Misk is kind of disappointing because I do like dinos, but like I understand like people aren't gonna ever stop complaining about Misk.
Well, the thing is that
Rascalio's coming back.
they're giving us another dinosaur that searches Alcasaur. So I mean,
Yeah, like the deck has enough juice. Like it Misk, you know, we're lucky at least it's still at 1. You know what I mean? Like
yeah. Wasn't he at 1 at one point as well? Back.
he was banned. He was banned for a hot little minute.
Yeah.
And then they brought it back to 1, and then they put him at 3, like in the very next ban list after they brought him to 1. But it's a good list. I could see why they put Striker Dragon to 1 along with the LP because they didn't want to they just want Dragon Link gone. So like taking that LP slot out and putting another Striker Dragon in, they didn't want that to happen. So you could you have less explosive turns with the Link, so and then they're trying to prevent the grind game. So they just want the deck gone, kinda. I don't think it'll go all the way away, but it's fine. Sky, the Engage coming back to 1. That's the perfect number for. I think the OCG has it at 1 or 2. Like I don't think they ever banned it. I think that the lowest they had it at was 1 over there. So it's a good list. I mean, Pendulum's coming back like with the new Master Rule 5 mechanics. Like I just don't think Pendulums will ever really do much because they're still married to Links the way that every other extra deck monster was married to Links. So like you're not really going to be able to pop off with Pendulums like you used to be able to, like ever, just because of Master Rule 5.
I mean, in the end, pendulums will never be the same again. They're gonna have their little scales in the back row of the spell and traps area. They're not gonna be as great and consistent as they used to be. They're not gonna be busted. They'll be restricted as what they're doing. So forever, pendulum is not gonna be as broken as they used to be. And even a lot of players would leave it because of the pendulum era. But either way, we still stuck around to the end. I mean, that's when the TCG party even got together during Pendulum. It was pretty fun.
It was.
Yeah,
it was a great time.
It was the last year that we made it. We got together, and that's when Pendulums came to an end during the summer. and it was the end of the road, and that was the end of an era. That was when the time I left Yu-Gi-Oh because Yu-Gi-Oh just lost its ways. The mechanics were just bad. They were out of ideas. They were lacking the capacity.
And our journey began into Dragon Ball.
Yeah, pretty much. And I stuck around with Dragon Ball all the way, and I'm glad I had a good time. Got to meet more people, more friends. Did a few podcasts, and that's it. That's why we got to meet you all guys.
And I still had dinosaurs in ABC at the time. Man, those formats were so great. I feel like compared to these modern ones.
I miss the Synchro era. It was so much fun.
But it is what it is on that.
And the Link
Uh,
era was pretty good.
I like that they gave us this master rule, like not you could have the extra like the extra deck monsters in like the battlefield. It doesn't have to be just in one zone. I think that's what it should have always been. Um, you never know. It could have hurt the game in some aspects because there was at least here in Miami, like our team was massively big before links, and then after links, it kind of just shrunk. So
Because y'all like to play. Y'all like to play. Y'all like to. I seen how y'all play, man. Y'all like to. You know what I'm saying? Get the flipping cards and doing all. Link slowed the game down. Y'all. You know what I'm saying? I could. I see. I could see that. You know what I'm saying? Y'all like.
I mean, tell World Chalice that, and tell Spiral that Link slowed the game down.
Oh, spot. Yeah, they had to get him up out of there. Firewall Dragon 2. They got them up out of there with the quickness.
I mean, yeah, but he's coming back with an errata, though. We know he's coming back.
I mean,
He's
Salads. That's why they got rid of. They brought Mirage Stalio back because they getting ready to go crazy with Firewall with Salads.
Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting. They're doing everything right, and I just saw that they have a remote dual YCS that they're going to give away a mat and participation prizes. I think that's a great idea off of Konami's part, and any way to get the game going. I mean, that's something Dragon Ball needs to do more of. We need more webcam events too. Like we just get them and then they leave and that's it. Like it just feels like we get one or two and that's it. Goodbye. And like it feels like Digimon has like 10. Like that's one thing that would help out a lot.
I mean,
Well, isn't online nationals in August or something like that?
Not entirely sure, but I do know that we have in-person regionals that earn you invites, and I believe there's like online things too that earn you invites.
Okay.
I'm just saying when you can say Konami got more respect for his player base, you got to figure it out.
I mean, it's more of a hit and miss with Konami a lot because at the time they were really bad. No matter what, but they didn't really stick to their schedule with the ban list. They just came out of nowhere randomly, and players were like unexpected, and they were not prepared, and it just made things worse. There were a lot of negative feedbacks with them, so Konami had to learn their mistakes. But they're still making a lot of mistakes. They are not the really best. I'm not gonna lie. I would still prefer Bandai over Konami, even though Bandai's making a couple of mistakes. It's like to me in wrestling retrospect, Gio. It's like how AEW is good, and people will still prefer their product over WWE's current today, but their booking is the only thing that's what's killing the company, and that's why they're not getting high in the ratings lately. Even though we're in the middle of a NBA playoffs, but they're not gonna. But they'll be their last week this week since they're gonna have their episode tomorrow night. But it's kind of like pretty bad, how bookings like that is what kills it in here in card game terms. Like Bandai, despite they do listen to the fan base, they don't really give the fans what they really want. And as much as you beg for it, ask them and say, yeah, Bandai, you're doing pretty good. It's just you're not really getting what you need. I mean, can you imagine later on sometime maybe in a few more sets and anything when Digimon gets high in price and something goes wrong, like this card gets a little busted, or there's some time of meta deck that just doesn't go right, they'll have to provide a banned and limited list sometime in the future, and then you'll have to see like how that works or how they're going to resolve their varieties of what a banned and limited list is going to be.
I can almost bet you money that happens in set 5. Almost bet you money.
All right. Speaking of.
All right, our next topic, guys, because Gio wants to get into this. Does diversity equal or equate to player skill?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't believe it does. I don't think it really matters like what the format is, because you obviously have to know the meta, and
I'll
as a skilled player, you just kind of take what information you have and make the best of it. So, like, yeah, is it a little bit more difficult to find out what to bring to a tournament in a diverse meta? Absolutely. It's probably a lot easier to master a meta that has 2, 3 decks, like a triangle format, than it is to master a format and consistently perform top level events if there's like 8 decks in the format that are balanced out.
So me and Gio actually we talked about this a little bit. I think of it mathematically, or I try to think as mathematically as I can, right? So I I guess I would ask the question. So Joe and Kev, would y'all agree that for a game to be considered competitive, right, the lion's share of the outcome would have to be dictated by the skill of the player?
Can you repeat that one more time?
So for a game to be considered competitive, would the lion's share of the outcome of the game need to be dictated by player skill?
Yes and no, because it
I'm
depends.
not saying majority. I'm saying the lion's share. So there's a split that I have. I just would want to see if you're on the page. Like if it's say let's say because I think there's three factors, right?
Well,
There's
okay, go ahead.
there's skill there's the skill, there's RNG, at least for TCGs. I think there's skill, there's RNG, and there's matchup, right? So if we were to say it's an even split 33, 33, 33, right? You would say that for a game to be competitive, it would at least need to be, 40%, say, skill based versus RNG and matchup getting the rest of the spread of the dictating the outcome of the match.
Yeah, I can see that. That makes sense.
So that's where I my feelings is that a diverse meta goes against that, right? And this is where like I feel like Digimon and DBS have a flip on each other because where RNG has a dictation over Digimon in an unhealthy way, I think matchup has an unhealthy dictation over which is RNG in the bracket, right? You don't control what's going to happen in the bracket. So with a diverse meta, right? It's taking it out of your that's why like take chess or Marvel versus Capcom 2, right? There's only like yeah, sure there's 60 characters in the game, but really there's like 12 that you're going to play. And the game is fun, it's poetry to watch the skill level there because they've gotten the game down to a science, right? There's always another level to push it to in terms of interaction between players.
That's correct. But
So
there's not really any RNG in video games
no, yeah.
outside of who you get paired against. Because yeah, obviously some characters are better equipped to deal with another character's toolkit.
Right. The RNG is not a factor in that. I'm just saying like in terms of uh I guess I bring that example up to bring up like what happens in a solved meta, right? Because in a solved meta, it's it's an actual meta. So that's the other thing too, is that the meta game is the game outside of the game, right? It's what we're thinking about in terms of what is this player thinking, right? So without the prediction and the RNG mitigation that comes from taking the diversity out of the metagame, right? Not to say that it's completely right or wrong one way or the other, right? But I think that the notion of diversity in a game is something that the game is for the game itself. It's not for the meta game. It's not for the game outside of the game. If the game gets degenerate and it's a triangle format or two deck format and it's between us as players, but everyone who wants to dial around and play, um whatever deck, Zeno Goku versus Whis, if that's what they want to do, and have a good time, the game is diverse as you want it to be. You could put a pile of every color card in the deck and get the
But
tournament
is that
sideways.
competitive?
Is that I mean, it's two different games. That's the other thing too, is that a
So
lot
the
of
pl-
times we're having two different discussions. A lot of times the people that are online and voicing their opinions and trying to have these, like, that's something I think within the last year or so I've realized. Sometimes you're talking about something and it's a topic, but you're really having two different discussions. You know, we're playing two different games, right? When they sit down at the table with somebody, it's like rule 0 in Magic, right? It's the social contract. Okay, should I bring a food chain deck that even though it's a 100-card singleton, I can still kill you on like turn 3? Is that an okay thing to play here with you right now? Are you equipped for that? Oh, you're not going to have a good time. So we need to play a different deck. So a lot of times that's not a conversation people are having. If they want to play a different game, because it's a card game, you're allowed to deck build, you can play different games. But the metagame is something entirely different from the game that Bandai has provided for us. That is what a metagame is by definition.
The meta is made by players. It's not made by the
Yes.
companies that make the game.
Correct.
So
And people want to play
to go back
Bandai
to go back to what Cam said, if 500 people out of a 600-man tournament played skillless Goku, he would be the meta. So for the next tournament, people are going to take that information and go, okay, what's good against this? And now you no longer have 500 Son Gokus, you have 200 to 300, and then the answer to that Goku. And so forth and so on. And that's how metas get evolved. Granted, like, that's me going from like a small card pool. Obviously, it's definitely a lot more complex than that. But it also goes with like testing and everything of that. So
My biggest
you have to do
issue-
more testing in a diverse format than you do in a smaller format. Like if there's a deck that's just like the big bad of the format, and there's like 2 decks that can contest it, testing's really easy. But if you have a whole widespread of stuff and you don't really know what's going to show up, unless you go based off of like their last tournament, like say there was like X number, like the most popular deck was Yellow War Greymon, which is probably going to be the case until August anyway, so we'll use that as the example. What do you bring to a tournament? You bring A, War Greymon, because you know it's the best deck, or you bring the quote-unquote answer to it, which is technically Nidhogg, and you play green.
I think Blue Imperial also has a good matchup into that.
It does, and
Blue
doesn't.
Imperial doesn't play matchups, man. Blue Imperial, it's, I mean,
It
that's a whole
turns guys
nother.
sideways.
Like it's high roll. That's why Blue Imperial is a good deck, because it's like it's like
And the other high deck you'd see is the Purple Meadow Gurumon and Anubis-Mon deck in that whole tier. But my thing, oh yeah, that's a fantastic deck and card. My biggest issue is this. When we watch people that play esports and video games, right? You know, there's matchups. And people watch VODs and they learn how to deal with matchups, how to fight the matchups, you know.
Yeah.
You know what you're kind of getting unless there's like a nerf or a buff. But then people start testing that out. In terms of TCGs for the Dragon Ball Super card game, I feel like the diversity. And I know you sent one of Sandy Cater's quotes from the DBS podcast.
Sandy.
But I don't want to go to an event, and I agree with him more than ever that he said this months ago. I don't want to go to an event. You know that 10, 11 decks are diverse. They can show. I get my one bad matchup. I get a loss, and then that F me out of like the whole tournament. That and it could be my round 1. It happens right away, and that's it. They're with the tournament. I got to go, X1, and then hope my breakers are good and all.
Well, no one wants to do that, but you'll never know that until you go to the actual event.
Exactly. Versus if we have a triangle or square meta, where we know what we're going against, we could side deck it. I think there's a lot more player skill in that than the player that goes through the random field, because you can go through anything and they can pilot anything.
It is definitely a lot easier to top an event with a diverse meta based on what you play throughout the Swiss rounds than it is an event that has a smaller metagame, because you have to know the ins and outs of those, let's say, 3-4 decks. And yeah, you'll still see rogue decks, because that's a thing. But
Right.
for the majority portion, like as a mathematical outlook on it, is if you see a lot more of your bad matchup, you're going to tend to do better. So you'll see your bad matchup later in the rounds in a more diverse meta, if it's an actual top performing deck, than you would in a format that has 3 or 4 decks. Like I played Magic in the Call of Blade / Rug format. You only saw 2 decks. So you either knew the matchup or you didn't. And then RNG, and that's when RNG gets involved.
But at least that's fair, right? Versus, I got to go to a Dragon Ball event. We got Dark Brawly, Mecha Frieza, King Piccolo, Bad Jax, Soul Striker can appear, Shinchen aggro control, both the 2 decks in 1 leader, launch. Mecha Frieza, if I didn't say that one already. Let's see here.
Blue,
King
yellow,
Cold,
and pure yellow KP.
Skillless Gohan. Um, let's see. Launch. King Vegeta. Almost
Yep.
forgot that one. Green Gotenks. Because that can still be viable. Like, there's just so many decks. Somebody could be playing Blue Skillless Gohan. For all I know. It's just so many different decks.
Right.
And Boker, another deck. And
That's the thing. It's what people want, but that's the thing though. That's why I get confused, like people getting all up in arms about the ban list because it's literally what everyone's like, oh, there's not enough decks. I'm like, bro, there's like
The I
2 decks you could bring.
the idea for tournaments is to attract the most amount of players. Diverse formats do that, which is why they're created. From
But
a
it's also,
competitive standpoint, yeah, it's definitely easier to test against 3, 4 decks and know what you're doing and perform in a tournament, which is more.
but I think where we're at with it though is we're in, especially with the way our social media works in the DBS community, is we're kind of in sort of a Twitter sphere criticism, right? People are in that same, and what I mean by that is that Twitter sphere criticism is like people who cry about, um, say the way a story goes in like a comic book movie and have never read the comic book in their life. Like we just got done talking about testing. Most of these people that do this crying, they haven't, and they play the game here and there. They go to the locals, play a couple games, maybe play with their friend. They've never had a testing session in their life. They don't understand what they're talking about when they're talking about the meta game.
All right, that might be fair.
Like,
That might be a fair
just
assessment.
like it's just straight. It's just talk.
All right.
it's very interesting because back in the day when Dragon Ball first started, we had the square and the triangle metas, more so triangles. Then it became a square, and then it just evolved to this diversity that everybody wanted. But the best sets in the history of the game is they're closer to triangle and square formats versus more anything diverse. So it's just very interesting how the player base is kind of just like made diversity their priority when they want it to be a very competitive game, and I would feel it the other way around is more competitive.
Question,
You know,
Geo. Like, do you think in like triangle metas, do you ever think like just like mostly like just 2 big meta decks and at least maybe 1 anti-meta, or just mostly like 3
Well,
decks like one can counter another than the other, and then one can
yeah,
topple in some ways?
it could be either of those two things, but we have the appropriate information, at least to like when we're going to sit down at that table. We know that either we're going to get the 2 or 3 top decks and the one anti-meta deck, but we're going to get that. We're going to understand that that's what we're going to face, and our side deck is going to plug us in and to answer the questions of the certain decks we're facing and give us the answers to that. It's not like now where your side deck is really varied because like you can't side for like 12 decks. You have to decide the 15 best cards for your deck,
Yeah, you kind of got to side for color. That's just the way you got to do it now. You got to really just.
Yeah, I can.
and I feel like the elite player base also kind of controls how the card game goes. How the you know I don't know, they don't have influence over the ban list, and stuff like that, but they kind of dictate metas. They kind of influence on some cards. They make videos to get cards banned.
Yeah,
It's
not very objective. That's like one of the main things I guess that upsets me about like the people who have a voice with DBS is that they're not very objective. They just want to like, be like, oh, I don't like this card, so you know what I mean? Like they don't give good reasoning when they're like, oh, this thing should go, it's a problem. And
Well,
they'll
the
be
only
like,
guy that gave good reasoning was the Gogeta 7 guy.
oh, Frank Miller.
No, different Gogeta 7 guy. I
Well,
forgot his name.
you talking about Joey?
No, but like
Oh, I
Gogeta
thought
7 was definitely cancerous for the format. Like there was no answer to it. It created a very bad negative play state. It was like,
the
oh,
only
Would you think
the
that's
only
worse than the? Would you think that the Gogeta 7 drop being the worst, or the flute swap deck that back in set 4
oh
was the
no,
worst?
the flute swap deck was definitely the worst because it was the only deck you can play in the format. At least with Gogeta 7, you had
I don't
options.
respect the way I don't respect the way that they hit that though, because like for me, I feel like if I guess maybe it's just my opinion, but like looking at like the things that made the deck, like okay, flute had to go, but I think like the first thing to go, which was the last thing to go, was unyielding. Why do y'all didn't think to get rid of the free mana?
In all fairness, the free mana was definitely bad, but being able to continuously play the attacker over and over was far worse.
Yeah, but it didn't really make that much of it. You know what I'm saying? Like with the free mana, I mean the Bardock swapping into itself like it's a whatever burger. If you don't have free mana, you just like I mean in that state of the game, like the self awakening and all that was like it was advantage at the end of the day, but you had to pay mana to play it. It never came down for free.
I mean, that's another thing. All the top decks can just play everything for free and not waste mana. Like we're at that point.
I mean, if there, that
And
said, there is no diversity on that one. There's only just
Yeah.
one meta, and that's it in that time. And I know it started getting bigger and bigger in diversity when they did Wish, and then they also later on got bigger when it came to set 6 with the Cream Broly structured deck, the Red
Set
Frieza
six was just
anti-meta.
Set
There's
Set six was just Brawly and skill as Goku. Let's be real on that one.
No, never.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
and
I was gonna
I
say,
forget.
Janemba was around, and so was Shenron.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
But
yeah.
set six, the
Oh,
only deck to come out of set six was Green
yeah,
Broly.
and I'm sorry, Vanilla Coup. I forgot Vanilla Coup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, and Trader Dende.
Trader
Was around.
Dende, there's that, and the Antimatter Frieza. Like there was like two of
I'm not
them.
gonna lie, I really don't remember Destroyer King's format that well.
There was
To be
I
Destroyer,
mean,
completely honest.
then we
Destroyer
went
King.
to the glorious Set 7 format of Kaba, Red Baby, Frieza
Oh
Prison,
wait, what about that? What was that? That like Eternal Shenron deck as well.
Parunga?
Kurunga?
Parunga.
You talking
No,
about
no, no,
Ram?
no, no,
You
not
talking
Parunga.
about
No, sorry,
Ram?
not Parunga. The other one. The
Oh,
Grand
the Super Sin Shenron.
Super Shenron. Yes.
Yeah, that got banned super fast, so I don't remember it.
Hey, let me take a turn that I couldn't kill you last turn and kill you now.
Exactly.
So,
Oh, but then
you
I
know.
know by round set.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you got to look at some of the things Bandai prints, and it's like it's for flavor, dude. It's not that competitive. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, just take another turn, bro. Like, oh,
My newest thing in all these when they want me to reboot somebody. Now that I've seen Massane rebooted, I want Kaba rebooted. Now I know it's possible.
When you look at back
Now
at these
they
old
take off that you
sets,
can't
I mean, like
create.
they should reboot Crit Vegeta, but that's my opinion.
when you look back at all these other sets, guys, you could tell that during certain set there was not that many diversity. Like, gee, you remember back in Set 8, they only had like one deck or two at Set
Or
8,
Red Yellow Baby and Hatch.
yeah, it was I said like in Set 2, and there was not, and then it was you said it was the most boring.
Oh, set two was just like Crit Vegeta, Android.
Cell,
No, not
Edgar.
Set 2, Set 8. I'm talking about there's two new ones
Oh,
in
okay,
Set
okay. So
8.
I was right.
You talking
I
about
was
Hatch
right in
versus
saying
babies
Red, Yellow Baby, and Hatch. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the most boring set
Oh
because of it
God,
too. And then
I don't want to talk about Hatch.
it really picked it up by set 9 when you got your Invoker Goku Vegeta. You had
Jiren,
Jiren, which
I
was
mean,
my
Surge
favorite.
format was
Then
fire,
you
dude.
had
Reboot Gohan.
Black
Set 9 format
Black
was probably
Blue.
my favorite format.
Noel's favorite, the Black Majin Buu deck that ended up adding the Gohan tag team and the Turles before the Turles got banned. Everything.
Yeah, you know that the Sandy Cater and Kodakuru creation, the Boo Universe 3 deck. Yes.
I mean, by that time, that's
I'm
when
gonna
we
be
started the
real. So like,
podcast and DBS, and we really got the hand of all this, the telling, especially during the COVID of last year, and everyone was talking about. It. We even heard all the information with Angel when he was doing the Jiren deck and all the infos and all the ideas of how the meta he was bringing up. You know, him and Alex. And then we started,
so
and then diversity. I don't know if you, and then there was like triangle meta at the time when we were like coming in by set 10, as the reboot set of DBS when they brought in unisons and everything. When you got like hand destruction Frieza,
I mean,
Vegex.
Unison's really changed the game.
They changed the game, but at the same time, by later on, it just didn't feel like DBS adapted more. It just felt like it just got boring and repetitive, and it's just you're doing the same thing, you're just adding new stuff and then adding new effects, and it just got to the point that the game doesn't have what it used to have. Like to me, it already peaked with Set 9 because Set 9 was just perfect, and that was it. After that,
Set
I
9
think
was
right
glorious.
now
Looking back,
I'm gonna throw this out there, boys. I think right now the game is the best it's ever been. I'm gonna keep it 1,000. Like
I think Set 9 format was better.
yeah.
I
The
did.
game
So
is definitely the healthiest it's ever been.
like so here's the thing. Like I guess Set 9 format. Set 9 format was basically it was like here's the thing, Geo, because I keep trying to sneak this in a little bit, and I can tell my man's plays a little bit of Magic too. If you like Set 9 format, Surge format so much, it was you were basically playing Magic.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like
You don't gotta tell me.
like just good. I'm telling you, Gio. Just if you like Set 9, just go play Magic, bro. Like, come on
But
now.
I don't like Magic. That's the best part. I tried it, and I outside of Commander, Draft, and Popper, can't get into it.
I'm about to send you a Commander deck, man, because I can't find out what happened with that Gruul deck I
Well,
sent
man,
you. I'm gonna send you
Commander
a
is
Commander
like
deck.
completely different. I had fun with that, but then like
I can't
Magic
play
is just
competitive Magic anymore.
Magic is just not as it used to be. I mean, why do you think like they've been the only ones you've been seeing in Target and Walmart during the scalping with Pokemon cards and Yu-Gi-Oh cards and all that shit? You ain't
I'm
gonna
being
see
real,
nothing
like
but Magic cards. Even I have a coworker. I explained in the episodes you guys ever watched that I have a coworker who plays Magic, and even though he's playing the game, he always tells me that there is no creativity or mastermind with the whole structure of the meta of Magic
competitive.
today.
Like honestly, if you play competitive, I think Popper's probably the best like gameplay. Like to be honest, I'm interested, even though I don't
Thank you.
play D&D. I'm interested in I just saw that D&D set. It looks cool to me. I might actually try playing D&D, like real D&D after playing with the set. Like,
The fact that I know that Yu-Gi-Oh is still doing a lot better than Magic just goes to show that Magic is pretty much out of ideas. It's out of uh, ways to just make a big combat, and I don't know how long Magic is gonna last because even though it's
oh,
still selling
Magic's
out,
It'll never die.
it may
yeah,
not. You
no.
say it may
The
never
thing is,
die. That's true, but if they can't
but
do
here,
anything to bring the hype back, then I don't even think Magic should even be around anymore.
but here's the thing. Here's the thing is that the thing is about what people are seeing in Magic because you hear this a lot. It's hard to see what's going on in Magic if you're not in the know, right? And I'm not saying like I'm the biggest Magic fan, Magic the best, elitist, anything. But the thing that's going on with Magic is that the market and the player base and everything has shifted to Commander. So like no one plays Magic as like a competitive game right now because when they sell sets, they're selling like commander cards, modern cards. Like it's supposed to be a standard set, but it has a bunch of things for a bunch of formats, right? So it's just a product of what you're seeing is the fact that the player base is all over playing a bunch of different formats. The product it sells. At the end of the day, it's just that they print the cards, so that's why they're always on the shelf. But people buy the Magic product. It's just that they're not. It's not a big flip. If people who sell Magic cards sit on them because they gain value over the time. Always. Every Magic card.
Well, that is
If you
true.
I
bought it for a
mean, if
quarter,
Commander is
it's gonna sell
big.
for $1.
I mean, I wish I could. If Commander is as big as you say, I wish I could see more Commander stuff all around in other stores, even in pharmacies too, instead of
I
just
mean,
Oh,
I
it's
mean,
gonna
I've
plain
seen I've seen my
physical.
Target Commander
here's
stuff
the thing.
lately.
Every
I don't
pack,
even see them.
every pack that is sold of Magic now, because the way they design the sets, like every pack has commander cards in it because the way they design when they design a set now, they're like, okay, These are commons, and they're thinking about the context of like, will a pauper player buy this pack because this might be a cool pauper card? Will a modern player buy this pack because this uncommon might work with this? There's so many different like diversity of the way the cards interact with the different formats when they design cards. That every pack of Magic, like you know, like Joe, you know what I'm saying? Like if you buy any type of Magic anywhere, it's gonna work. If you want to crack that pack, you're gonna be able to put the card somewhere in some deck that you have that you play for some format because there's
Well,
like
that's pretty
5 formats.
accurate. And like, even if you can, that means that card's probably just good and limited.
Yeah, then it's a standard card, and you're gonna be able to play a standard deck. A lot of people too, they just play draft. They just spend $15, go to the store, and when they're done with draft, a lot of times people they'll just leave their pile of cards at the table. I paid $15. I got to play Magic.
It's either
I'll
that or
leave.
they sell the singles back to the shop.
Yeah, immediately. The shop has them. Like,
The shop has a lot of Magic right now because, you know, if Target can't sell it to you, the shop will. But anyway, heading into our final topic here.
We
This week.
got, that's right, our final topic, guys. In Tampa, TCG's convention of the Digimon event will take place, as well as the top cut for the Digi World Tournament.
For the Premier Bandai event. So last week, Kevin, I love being right in my predictions. Last week, we were talking about how aggro was going to come up, you know, and do well. And I was talking about Blue Imperial, and I was talking about Purple Middle Guru, and Blue Imperial won first place at the PPG webcam event. You know, then we had Yellow War Gray win another. I forgot what the third deck was. You know, and it was great, you know, talking about how aggro just comes into the format for the first week and just does, you know, does what it does. So now we're in week 2 of this meta, and I can't wait to see, you know, the Tampa Con's going to be stacked, you know, with, you know, Max Tepiera, YouTuber, heading down. You know, it's going to be a stacked field. Guy Force Gaming going to be there. You know, Danny from Team PPG is heading there. It's going to be a very stacked Florida event, which, you know, we might get close to 50, 100 players for the event.
That'd be kind of
And,
wild.
you know, yeah, I've been hearing something. A lot of people are coming down for it, and you know, has me hyped. You know, PPG already left today to head there for Sunday, and so we have these 2 events. We have a real life, you know, basically big, you know, it feels like a mini regional type thing, and then we have a webcam event. You know, and with the success of Blue Imperial from last week, we saw in the market, the secondary market, the whole deck rose in price, and as well as the purple deck. Actually, the prices are a little bit higher on the purple deck. You know, with minimal tops. I mean, it did top, but it didn't top as much as Blue Imperial, and that didn't even top as much as Yellow War Gray. But that Yellow War Gray is to be expected. You know, so it was great seeing that, you know, aggro was the way to go in week 1, and I was advocating Blue Imperial more than Rookie Rush. And it was nice to see, you know, Dan Vang of Gaia Force taking it with Blue Imperial, further reinforcing what I was saying. But for this week, so we're talking about this week. I mean, were you guys surprised that Blue Imperial got first place at the PPG, you know, regional webcam event?
I was.
not really because like so the thing about Yellow War Gray, right, is and that's what part of it is like the high roll nature of Imperial, but also is the way the mechanics interact. And it's kind of what people want to do with purple Digiburst Metal Guru, but you got to swing out for almost the whole life total all at once. If you drop them down, you're doing them a favor. It's kind of like Vanguard when you're setting up when you know what I mean.
I mean, the Yellow War Greymon deck is a Dragon Ball Super aggro deck as a Digimon deck.
Oh yeah,
Literally.
but it's like Dragon Ball Super, right? Where like okay, if you're trying to prevent them from awakening, sometimes you know depending on the matchup, you want to slow roll their awakening. So it's one of those things with Yellow War Grade where with the Imperial, right? Where just I could see it because the way the mechanics line up is you set up a whole kill turn all at once instead of letting them get the value of sitting at the 3 life. They get so much value from being able to, you know, add and subtract their life total at 3.
I think the Magnadramon inside the deck is the way to go. I think Slash is not as good in our meta, and
Well, no,
here's
because
why.
we got more cracked rookies. We got the Pulsemon. We got the Pulsar. So
And
like,
here's why. The fact, and I saw True Champion Steven do this over the weekend. The fact that you can, so if you set up your board right, and you have a Ward Greymon with an Andrew Woman, and you have an Andrew Woman on board another one, you could potentially go War Greymon swing, take the life or the security,
yep.
restand, draw Fupa, Andrew Woman summon Bushy, right? And then if you already had it, you could summon a Magnadramon on top of the Andrew Woman, swing the Magnadramon, and proc 2 free summons, 2 more Bushies. You got 2 more Greymons, 3 Bushies, and a Magnadramon.
Yeah.
That's 6 damage in one turn.
Yep.
Like, and I think that is the way you play this deck. I think you want to go that aggro. I don't like the passive because I've been testing Shine and I see that Slash is just the moment you slash, he's dead the next turn. They get rid of him. Like there's like no point.
Yeah.
Like it's a good card. It's like a toolbox card, but that's all it is. Like like you would rather have it be Wargrave because he's not like the 8,000 DP is relevant because either they're gonna neg it to death, they're gonna kill it, they're gonna run over it, they're gonna pierce it. So
I
it,
mean, I hear everything you're saying, Joe, and that's why I keep trying to tell people about that set 2 purple metal Garuru. I'm telling them, get up off that Digiburst metal Garuru.
I still like the Digiburst one better.
Like, bro, I've had turns like you talking about with Wargrave, where I'm like, they're like, how'd you push 4 or 5 damage out like that, bro?
I mean, I think the Digiburst one, I think it's better when you don't try to wombo combo for the Anubis so you can get the 4 dudes with rush. I think once
Oh, when you
hide
grind
and
it out,
raise, yeah,
yeah,
if you hide and raising, you have the one, it turns into 4 or 5 bodies. And if you either play Necrophobia after the Guru, or you just play Patient, I think that is the way to go with the deck. If you get the nuts and you get all of it, that's amazing. But
yeah.
yeah, like it's just playing a patience game, and I think the purple deck is going to pick up steam because looking at the secondary market prices for Lady Devimon, that she was at $20 this past week at one point.
I know. I gotta find mine. I saw. Look, I got a
You
couple
know,
of them.
she's at $8 right now, but like it has a couple
Right.
of tops, but the prices, the Matt Tabor is like $8-9 from 1.0. Like the market is showing that people are going to play this deck because like these prices are just going to go up off one top. Like, and Blue Imperial went up as well. I think the biggest loser, even though it got second this week, I think Green OTK was kind of a big loser for the
Yeah,
fact that it got
I
second.
think they need to navigate away from OTK a little bit and do the Nidhogg Hercules Kabuterimon deck that just controls the board.
I think people need to explore that more. I think why isn't that being explored more? And then that really
Because hidden potential's at one, if you want to know the real reason.
yeah,
and I
yeah.
think people will shift away from Rookie Rush, and I think Blue Imperial in our format we're gonna have more Blue Imperials than we are gonna have Rookie Rush. I feel like.
I feel like that's accurate. So like to
Yeah.
go back a little bit to say like why I was surprised Imperial won. It's because no one was talking about it. Really.
I mean, I
Like
did last
it was
week.
like you don't count blue, you're different.
Ooh, ooh,
You're a unique flower in a field of dandelions.
mm-hmm.
But that's neither here nor there. Um so like they were talking about green and being able we could do OTK things. Wargrave was just everyone knew that was happening. And you look at the Japanese meta, and it's really like, all right, Megazoo was there. There were some rookie rushes, and like they also got like bumps as well. And then we got Purple Metal Guru that came out, and like, oh, okay. And then we also have Black, which didn't have a good showing, but the Punch deck is actually not bad. Also, it's like a tier 2, but it like sneaks wins in. It's kind of like what OTK would have been if Palmon didn't get released. But like Imperial was so
Well,
kind
it's
of
a
like
big
under the
difference,
radar,
though,
and
right?
jamming such a good
Yeah,
um
jamming out of hand.
keyword
Yeah,
currently because
yeah,
everyone's like it's either they have Omnimon or Chaosmon, and
Yeah.
like it just beats over security. There's not a lot of option cards being run right now by multiple decks outside of green with Needle Spray, and that card's wild. If you haven't played it, I suggest it. It just does so much in security. But
The reason I was talking about Blue Imperial is because me and Noel were equating it to week 1 of Dragon Ball Super new metas. Aggro is king. You know
it's
why?
like that everywhere too. But like
Yeah.
Digimon's different. Digimon's not like any other card game. It's because of like the resource management is also like you
It's the
giving
way
your
draws
opponent
work.
resources. Right, and you also draw a crap ton of cards.
Well, it's weird because you draw a crap ton of cards, but I think I've come to the conclusion that despite the way draws work in the game, it's also got some of the worst RNG in terms of drawing because like it's every deck, every deck is all types, right? So every deck is also a combo deck in addition to being a mid-range deck, in addition to being an aggro deck. Every deck has to do everything. So like getting the wrong piece at the wrong time hurts you a lot in Digimon.
It's interesting because the Dragon Ball players don't want Drag Brawly, which acts like a Digimon deck, goes tall and wide. Dragon Ball players, no, you just gotta go tall and that's it. It's interesting how they want to, nick that out of their game.
I like
You
how
know,
evolved like Digimon has gotten for a game that has very
I think
simple mechanics.
If the
yeah,
game doesn't have any bad luck or anything at the moment, like DBS kind of rushed during set 3 and 4, I mean that's
right.
fine because at least let it stay how it is. Take its time, doesn't rush. Let it have a good time, because by the maybe in the future it might end up like being a little rush or whatever, or it gets really competitive. But by then at least take its time because Digimon showing me that kind of game where it has to be like in a pressure that it is, where when DBS had to go through and it got some bad feedbacks and everything,
I
and mixed
guess
emotions.
like yeah, and it's a lot of it is the brewing, right? Aspect of it too is that like a lot of things work in Digimon better than in other games. Like at DBS, you kind of gotta once a deck gets solved, there's a couple little techs. It's kind of like the soapbox I stand on when it comes to green in this game, right? Because red is weak right now because green representation is low.
well, I mean, Red's also weak because Red was really bad in this set.
Red didn't get anything out of BT4. Red Omni is still a deck. It's just new was always better. So it got pushed out the format because of War Gray, which has a good
Well,
matchup against Red
do we
anyway.
do we think for these two events this weekend, do we think that the Rogue deck pick is a pick we're going because we know Yellow or Greymon going to be 50% of the field. Online, that's what it shows. In person, we're going to see.
Oh no, it's still going to be 50% of the field.
But do we take the Rogue deck that somebody is like, whoa, like kind of like the Zed Metagurumon deck, which I saw blow out people at PPG locals last night, which that surprised me. That's a tier 2 deck that can do well. Are we taking, Don Devimon? Are we taking, Megazoo, which people hyped up, hasn't been represented as much? And I really don't think that's a deck in this format, to be quite honest, both of you. Or does Rookie Rush come back in a big way, seeing as that deck isn't really... I don't think so. I think Blue Imperial has took its place in this meta. Like, what are you guys' thoughts on this?
I feel like Rookie Rush will have some representation because it's still like a deck that has the same principles as Imperial. It's just the fact that now we have the one cost Digivolve
Yeah,
blockers. You can't really
yeah,
choke them as bad, and they'll be able to get like more. They'll be able to still play their game while having defense.
yeah.
Um, so outside of that, like also the hybrids are astounding cards. Like to be able to have like a Davis on the board, just for the sake of talking about Imperial and being like, huh, this could be another attack. Really?
Well, the ancient Gurumon Rookie Rush deck did top the core event, I believe. So it does have one.
Oh, that's fair. I also like Zed as a removal. I think that's an excellent, like the Digiburst Blue deck. I think it's solid. It'll have representation. Do I think it's gonna make the top tables? It might find a spot there, but it's not going to be like it's going to be purple, green, yellow for the most part. And it's really just like if Megazoo does make a debut, it's because that individual figured out what the best megas are to play in this format to answer the other 3 decks that are currently topping.
Let me ask you guys a question. In the future for Digimon, would you be a little worried if they kind of did the same idea mechanics like they did with Magic and DBS with like mixed colors and everything, like in a good or bad way? How you guys feel? Like, would it or anything that might change around how the game was just good, but then somehow it might do something that might be a problematic for you as a player? So far
So,
that you're interested
so,
in games like what Digimon has.
so like there already is the yellow-red McDonald's deck control, which North America figured out.
No, but I'm
Not
like
this.
not like just like you have like 2 colors put in a deck. Like that's normal. I mean that's nothing wrong. But I mean like mix, like they did for like by multicolor. If I want to say for that
Oh,
standpoint.
like a card that counts as like both, like a whole
I mean,
like archetype behind that.
Yes.
Ah,
We do.
I don't know. Like I think like changing it up is fine if you don't do it like dramatically. Like if it's like a subtle introduction, in which case you can play these cards in your X or Y deck because they match both colors. Like that's fine. Like next set we have the advanced mechanic, which was formerly known as Blitz. I don't know why they changed the name. Which is an insane
Digizork too.
mechanic that you go, I digivolve. Oh, it's your turn, but I still get to attack. So like that's what red like kind of like blows up again. Like red gets forgotten here, and then next set they just come back with a vengeance. And there's a couple of other things that happen next set, like with the new Omnimons and whatnot. And Diaboromon becomes a deck too. So like if they introduce something unique like that, I don't think it would like hurt the game per se, but it could change it too much where it's not the same game, and that's what would concern me. Because that's what they did with Unisons and Dragon Ball. It really just like brought the whole game. I mean, the multicolors did it too, but it wasn't as bad. Because it's like, okay, I can
I
play
think
yellow and
Unisons are
blue.
great though.
No, like I liked Set 10. I thought like it was cool. Like Unisons were dope. Then they came out with Set 11, and Dark Broly existed, and then it's like Unisons don't
Cause
really
like
matter anymore. Like they backtracked so hard on Unisons because like all right, Unisons are dope, and then like decks didn't really revolve around them. Like after Set 10, it was like Set 11 happened. And it's like oh, we have Unisons, but we're not Unison reliant anymore, which is good in a way, but like you could have left it for a little bit longer.
I think what they realize. I mean, I think King Cole is a prime example. Is like for Unison because like what Unisons do is give you a reason to play 2 drops. Like because multicolors were kind of a 2 drop thing, but like arrivals were essentially super pushed 1 drops, right?
Yeah.
So once we it's like how do we get people to play 2 drops, and then the thing about it is that okay, super push 2 drops is good. It's got barrier deflect. It's a whole engine, but you just can't tap out. So like now that we have things like King Cold and like untapped 2 leaders coming back, I think that we'll start seeing like the new Red Vegeta. That's a fantastic way to handle that, right? Is go down to 5 life, the early awakening, you get the untap 2 on top of the
I do love that awaken mechanic where it's just like, okay, I can go down to this if I meet this requirement outside of
yeah,
just being at this life. So you don't get awaken choked, which is a thing.
yeah,
I've done it to
yeah,
people. They don't like that.
yeah.
Um,
You got to like we was
like I was
some
playing
matches
androids. I'm like, I'm not gonna swing it to you. I'm gonna dump your hand first before I let you awaken. Why would I do that? Or I'm going to hit you when I'm ready to get rid of your hand and then make you drop down to 3. And there's no point for me to give you cards for free.
right.
What if Bandai actually did the opportunity of finally putting black as part of a multicolor or putting Unisons as a multicolor?
They'll be
I
pushed.
like the
They'll be
idea
so
of
pushed.
multicolor unisons if
They'll
only
be
you didn't have to pay the 2 different colors.
yeah,
Like it will count as both.
yeah.
But what if
Like
they
you
They'll
can
have to be like a hybrid. You mean like hybrid mana?
Yeah, like you could pay either green or red, hypothetically.
Yeah.
I was more worried the fact that they kind of did like Magic because there are going to be some decks sometime where they end up having like too many colors. They can add it up. So this one has like represents like this one's a swamp deck, this one's a mountain deck, this is a plains deck. You can have like 3, 4, 5 colors, all of them, and then it's like probably like a gold deck or something because you've seen like those little gold stamp versions of the cards. And like then DBS, I'm like thinking like, are they just gonna mix like a bunch of colors together? You're gonna have like red, green, and yellow, blue, green. Like, where are they gonna take it to the
So
next
like
level?
it's basically the philosophy there is like surge meta, right? It's like that's the reason why you play a wedge in Magic is because like say you play it's like okay, a 60 card deck, you have 20 lands, for example, if we're using Magic as the example. You have 20 lands, 40 other cards. If you play a play set of all 40 of those cards, right? Assuming they're the best cards and you want a play set of them, you're playing 10 other cards. So you're playing the top 10 best cards in that color, right? So like what we saw in Surge meta is the reason why you play Wedge is because why would you play the top 10 best cards when the bottom 5 of those top 10 are going to be weaker than the top 5? Let me play 2 colors so I can play the top 5 best cards in 2 colors. Or let me play 3 colors so I can play the top 3 best cards in 3 colors. Like that's the whole like reasoning behind playing multiple. It's not to like sometimes there are like multicolor like spells and creatures that like make it worth playing both colors or they're like the glue to playing both colors. But like the general philosophy is that like the more you encourage multicolor, the less diverse you want the game to be in a sense. Unless you have a huge card pool like Magic does and a bunch of interactions and like a bunch of speeds that you can play the game at, which DBS doesn't have. Like if you, it's going to be like Surge Coup. It's going to be like Bean 8, whatever the best yellow card, best blue card, best red card. Like it's going to be like, you know, simulated ability or whatever it is, stuff like that.
Okay, and how do you find that different with like when people were making like rainbow decks, like for the Shenron Wish deck, for example?
So Rainbow Shenron was like, it's just a sign of an immature game, right? In my opinion, like that was only what about a year and a half into the game's life. I want to say, like, it's just a lot of unintended interactions and things of that nature. Like, I don't know. I think the way that turns work, like things like that, I guess pertaining to Digimon specifically, right? It's a difference in how the game works because that's like the core, I guess, draw of the game is that every action you take gives actions to your opponent. So like Shenron, those types of decks that are like very heavy combo based. Like Digimon does technically have combo decks, but um it's more like combo ramp control kind of, just slower pace things that are looking for a big turn, big payoff.
All right.
But every time you do something in the game, so yeah, DBS like that kind of thing, I just don't see it happening in Digimon, and it's fun, it's cool to see. I mean, it was yeah, there were pieces of it that had to go, and it pretty much went away when they adjusted small certain things. So it's just kind of unintended things happen sometimes.
All right, that's understandable. How about you guys? How do you guys feel about that?
I'm not gonna lie. What was the question?
Pretty much how you feeling
Uh,
with the multicolors that we might think in Digimon, but in comparison with like certain decks, let's say for example when Magic used to do that,
I think
or
multicolor like expands on the types of decks you can build. Because like if you just stick with the 5 colors that just interact with 5 colors, well, Digimon has 6, right? Purple, black, before, yeah. So like it lets you expand on deck building. Because if anything just interacted with the one color, it gets real stale. Because you can only really do one type of thing. It lets you kind of like mix certain mechanics because some mechanics are only exclusive to each color. Like for instance, most deletion effects are within purple, and most I don't know what the opposite of de digivolving is, but the one that takes from underneath the stack is exclusive to blue. Like things like that. So it lets you like be able to like combine mechanics and see what they can do together.
Okay.
I do agree that like, you need to have a mature game in order to make that decision though. You can't just throw it out there.
But
Low
I think
score.
to go off of what you said though, like the other thing about multicolor though is that like compared to, and it's kind of the same in DBS, right? They kind of laid the foundation for that. But like if you take like Demir color identity, right? Like blue black. Blue black has a different color identity than blue or black. So like mixing the colors, it allows you to be like, okay, it kind of does what, you know, it's saying Digimon. They're like, that's why red and yellow are like, peas and carrots. They go to weather sword because they're that it's DP up, DP down, and kind of that's why they in the framework of multicolor that they're doing right now. That's why they, it works flavor wise, and it's kind of its own thing a little bit. They're starting to figure out what they're going to do in terms of, what's the other one? Green and black, right? So green and black, they have the Chaos Mon. Chaos Mon, it stands back up and it pierces. So it does a black thing and a green thing. But that's kind of something that neither green nor black do. So, as they figure out more ways to kind of like figure out what the individual like multicolored color identities will be outside of like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, we'll start to see more and more of that, and before you know it, we'll have the full, you know, purple blue deck or whatever, blurple.
Good old Blurple.
Then all blurple. We tried it. We tried it back in set one. It was
It was sour.
in, it was it was something.
It was sour.
We, we tried our best. Okay.
It worked for a week.
You have McDonald's, you got sour, and what else do we have with green and black? I have no fucking clue.
Rotten asparagus.
Green and black.
I don't know.
You just call it chaos, right? That's all it
That
is. Just chaos mode at this point.
I didn't know chaos was that green.
I mean, listen, I got a couple exes you should meet.
Oh God. I think that's code for don't meet them.
I
Hey,
mean,
listen, everybody lives their own life, You're free to do whatever.
You know what? That's fair. Do what makes you
Yeah.
happy. Live your life.
Right.
So
Because
far,
I'll be
I
living
just
it.
don't want Digimon to just get screwed up over. I just want them to take their time and then be enjoyable.
The upside is that like it's a more Japan-based game that they just translated to America or English, however you want to word it.
Hmm.
So for the most part, like Bandai has taken care of its Japanese-oriented, originated products, so we should be okay.
I think that's the problem why it's something wrong with the DBS because the Japanese are more careful with the Digimon and they granted us here in America, but then
So
here in America when we have DBS, it doesn't feel like it has that Japanese orientation, where they
They
take their
also only
time, more
do Digimon.
convenient to help out the player bases and give
fun
ideas for those out.
fact, Bandai did not project DBS to do this well. So they obviously were going to make a lot of mistakes in the beginning. It
I
just blew up. So they were just like, oh, it's going to be like a casual card game. Yeah, yeah. Like even with Naruto when they had that out, I don't think they saw it going the way they did. So like they just kind of like didn't have the ideas on the backup.
I mean, we could almost do a whole nother podcast on, like, because my feeling is that Bandai, I mean, Japan in general has a little bit of a struggle understanding the TCG market and how products. It's not where like in Japan where you stop at a card shop on your way home from work on the bus, right? And we all are spread out from each other. Most people live like 2 hours from their locals. Most people live in like the backwoods. They go and pick up packs. Maybe they play with their friend or their girlfriend at the kitchen table, and that's how they interact with the game mostly. You can't expect everything to be a quick flip. You put it into, metropolitan area. You print a bunch, it gets sold out that week, and it's a quick turnaround. Magic sets. I'm sure you see they'll get sold out, but they sit there, almost until rotation. I mean, really anything you see it that's sold at Walmart, right? I mean, Pokemon probably goes the fastest compared to like Yu-Gi-Oh, the big three, but things kind of sit on the shelf and take a little while to get picked off because it's not. Most people don't play in shops in America. Most people don't live that close to a shop to play.
I
The
mean,
people that are engaging are just fans who can play it because they can get it.
I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh is not as big as it once was, but like it used to back in the day, where both Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon were selling it like the best. It's kind of completely different. Like the only time during the scalping that Yu-Gi-Oh got to be big was just that Ghost Rare stuff, because they were trying to get the Dark Magician Ghost Rare that was going for like $1,000.
Mm.
But it's like,
Yeah, I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh sets are neg. I mean, because Yu-Gi-Oh sets and DBS sets are designed the same, kind of. Or like,
pretty much
they're just,
DBS is more Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh combined with all the crazy stuff that they do.
the core issue I think with DBS is they need to get away. The way they've been designing sets since a long time is that they do 2 archetypes per color per set. Instead, they need to shrink it down to 1 archetype per color per set, and then a bunch of like generic like, okay, this is something that's going to advance red as a color. This is something that's going to advance green as a color, or something that's an option for aggro green decks, or something that's an option for mid-range green decks, and just like that's kind of what Digimon does, is that like, okay, there's an archetype for the color in there, and there's a couple little things that'll help you pick and poke and, add to this deck that you love, because in DBS, once your deck dies, it's done. Like once the power creep gets past it, you throw the whole pile away because all the archetypes are married to each other like that. When Black Blue goes, right? When it went, it's like, oh, everything that you bought for Black Blue, it's irrelevant because the deck can't keep up and you can't really support it the way they designed it unless they support Black Blue specifically.
All right. Well, guys, I'm guessing that's going to be pretty much what we're going to be talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and say thank you very much for joining us here on the TCG Party Podcast. It was great to have you guys
I
come
mean, I
join the
was going to
show.
keep going. It wasn't going to be the end yet.
Oh, well, sorry.
So, I mean,
I mean, we
We
were
got the
waiting for
secret.
you.
We got the secret boss
you,
encounter.
you
Oh
know,
no, a new challenger is approaching.
Yeah, new challenger
Do do
popped
do
up
do
on
do
you.
do do.
Look at him.
hey, Kevin, I got a question for you.
All right, go ahead.
I got a question for you. I know you love doing the ending because you want to do it over and over again to get it right. I know. But I got a question for you.
Haha. Okay.
What's the one keyword from Dragon Ball you'd never want to see in Digimon?
Keywords.
They all kind of exist in Digimon.
Well, I know. But, I mean, we got Rush. Probably like the big one.
You got Rush. Jamming is essentially crit.
Yeah.
Security pluses is like double strike and triple strike.
Okay.
Offering would seem like a really shitty mechanic to see in Digimon. Like, take a life or you're gonna let me draw extra cards.
No, offering, it doesn't have the best engines, but offering is easily the best keyword in DPS.
I mean,
Maybe, possibly. It's super like it puts your opponent like in an awkward position because it's
I
either
mean, the thing.
it's like how you give them advantage. I would mostly crit the life. I'm not gonna lie. I don't want to give them 2 cards.
Yeah, it's just bad. It's just bad all around. It's advantage either way.
Mm,
It's a +1 regardless, because the card either replaces itself by letting you draw 2, or you neg them 1 because your life is a second hand. So it's a
I
plus
wouldn't
one
like
either
the.
way.
I would definitely not like to see Invoker, like whatever,
Oh,
like
God,
added
no.
because I don't want. I don't want
I mean,
cheaper.
the
I don't want
McDonald's deck is kind of like Invoker.
what?
The McDonald's deck, the 2CC deck is kind of like Invoker.
Yeah, I mean, like, I just don't want people playing, like, Gaia Force for one.
Oh no.
Honestly, Gio, I don't know what you want me to think, because then I have to look like all the damn list of all the DBS cards I completely forgot that I previously erased in my entire fucking head.
How about this? How about this? What DBS card equivalent would you not want to see cloned? Like just a card, not a keyword on a card.
A
But what
card
Yoshi the
card?
in
Seven.
Digimon. Yeah. Well, obviously Flu would be one of them because that was just a stupid card.
Oh well,
But that's just
let me
too.
tell you about a
But
little.
that's just be stupid. Like I have to think like I can't remember there was a card I used to hate that should have never been made.
What button?
But no,
Yeah, Zeno button.
Xenoblade wasn't a problem for me.
Automatically put the memory to 0 as a security card. That'd be terrible.
It's
I
really
feel so bad.
it's really tough because since I stopped playing, I just don't remember much.
Okay.
That's fair.
Yeah, I'm sorry guys. It's not a good proper answer. I'm not like everyone else who gave you a
No,
good
that's an
keyword.
answer. That's an answer. You don't want the game. If the game becomes anything like DBS, we'll just completely forget about it.
No, I think I just don't want games to just be complicated and just be like everywhere, It's just like a game that you just relax, you play, you buy the cards, you go for fun, then you just play, and if it's
Yes.
good, just go for it. And just like I just don't want 1,000 things to be like, yeah, this is a new thing you're gonna do, this new keyword. So this keyword does blah 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 and blah, and it's like, do I have to fucking remember that shit? Just keep it the way it is, simple as that, and then we'll just move on. You don't have to give me 1,000 damn definitions of a word and then go ahead and tell me that I have to do this and then give me this bullshit ruling and all that crap and then give me this reason why the hell that ruling with the whole you have one card left in your deck if you draw and you lose, which I think is still fucking stupid to this day. And
Well,
and it,
so he won't be playing DBS anytime soon.
no,
That
I'm done.
that went from 0 to 100 real fast.
And by the way,
I
if
mean,
Digimon does the same bullshit like that too, then I'm sorry, but if I want to try that game, if it has that ruling, it's not worth it.
no.
Well,
Actually,
Digimon is you can
it's
have 0
reverse.
cards. You just can't draw after 0, which makes sense.
Well, yeah, that's the idea. Well, whose dumbass idea was you draw the last card, you lose? Whose dumbass idea was that?
I believe the name is Bandai.
I know, but who in Bandai was the idiot that came up with that ruling?
I think his name is Steve.
Well, fuck Steve.
I have no idea who did
Is
it.
that how it works in Yu-Gi-Oh?
No, Yu-Gi-Oh! You draw until you have no card, and if you run out of cards in your deck, it's your turn, and you draw. That's it, game over. There's a couple cards that's like you can like put a card in your deck, or whatever. You can skip your draw phase, so you don't have to lose. But nah, that's it. Once you have no cards left in your deck, it's game over.
You
Only
can't
when the
you,
start
like
of your turn.
Pokemon's like that too, right?
Yeah, Pokemon's the same. Most card games are the same, except for DBS.
Yeah.
And Vanguard,
Magic's the same way.
and I don't think Vanguard should count because Vanguard hardly ever decks out because they don't really make.
Let me tell you, sir. Well, how many times I've had 2 cards left in my deck?
The,
You be going through cards, man. Yeah.
either that or you're just.
I've decked myself out in DBS. Like I quit for a minute and then came back, and I had no idea how things operate anymore. And then I played a heartfelt plea, and then I was told to draw 2 cards, and I did and lost.
I mean, I took a break. I felt like I didn't want to keep playing, but Geo keeps like persisting on me continuing playing, and I just said, all right, whatever. But I just okay, what's the best thing to do? And then during those times, it was like during set 7 and 8, and I just didn't care. And by set 9, it was that's when I really got in, and I stuck around for a while. But then like after by the build up to set 12, I just feel like the game just wasn't the same anymore. And I just didn't want to keep going because I just wasn't really happy, and I just didn't care anymore.
And that's
That's
like,
fair.
like if you're not having fun, forget about it. I literally had the same discussion. I made the same point to someone about video games the other day.
Yep.
Like,
So, we play these things for fun,
Okay.
mostly.
All right, Gio. Before we end the episode, what is the last thing you want to say up for like anything to finish it up before we close our case today.
Alrighty, I'm glad you asked that. So, for this weekend, we got, Yellow War Greymon and Blue Imperial half the field. We got Green OTK and Purple in there. And let's see. Final thoughts. Bandai, if you don't do anything in the Dragon Ball list, you're letting me know you love Digimon more because it's your own IP. It's not even that you're secretly telling me that you love it more. You're actively telling me at that point. If we don't get a quote on, like, wide ranging for me is you're going to take care of the problem or you're changing something. Hitting one card does not change anything. So I kind of hope you live up to what you're saying. Because these new starter decks are really cool, and it'd be great if they were actually relevant versus just there, kind of like the Ultimate Solo deck. So, kind of want them to do what they say.
I forgot about the Ultimate Toba deck.
I think that Red Vegeta gonna be fired either way.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And one last thing, Gio, before we go. I got some sad news, folks. WWE has now released 13 superstars today.
Oh boy, I can't wait to read this.
All right, so the list goes up.
I'm sad for one of them.
I am sad for only one guy. I'm really sad, and I'll get to it.
Yeah.
We have for releases, guys: Tyler Breeze, Fandango, the tag team of Everrise, Chase Parker, and Matt Martell, August Gray, Araya Davari, Tony Nese, Marina Shafir, the tag team of the Bollywood Boys, Samir and Sunil Singh. If you remember them, they were working with Jinder Mahal when he was a champion. Kurt Stallion, Arturo Ruiz, and the biggest sadness of the guy who's leaving, Big Damo himself, Killian Dane.
Wow.
So that's your 13 list of those guys. So we're sorry to see them go, including for Big Damo himself, which that's his name back in the Indies, Killian Dane. We wish them well and hope they find good peace in their work.
Welcome to AEW. No, I'm just bad.
No, yeah. But anyway, guys, thank you again so much for coming to today's episode. It was a lot of talk, a lot of hours, and God, you guys are gonna have a good time listening to this shit. And I'm having a lot of fun editing this crap. Yeah, but anyway,
I will be back on the 17th.
and then we will see you then by the 17th. Will we see you also on the 17th, sir?
All right, my man. Hey, it's been a pleasure of pleasures, man.
You didn't answer my question.
Like you said,
Yeah,
what about
man.
will you see me on the 17th? Is that what you asked me? You was
Maybe.
asking me that.
Maybe I'm mad.
I would like to be here for the discussion of the DBS ban list. So I'm coming on the 17th.
Oh, you talking about? Oh, I just put two and two together. You talking about the band list? Oh yeah. Hey, you know what? Hey, we get that one going bright and early. You know what I mean? I'm over here rubbing my hands like Birdman. You know what I mean?
Right and early, and we are getting ready for that. Let's do it. That's 10 days
I'll be
after.
so sad if they ban like nothing.
Because that will be 10 days after my birthday, guys. 10 days after my birthday.
Oh,
Oh,
happy
I'm gonna
birthday
tell
if you
you,
don't speak.
If they ban nothing, you're going to hear me curse the whole podcast.
Then I hope I see that because I want more readings. All right. But anyway, guys, so I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I do want to go ahead and thank Joe Cito and Cameron G for joining up with us.
absolutely. No, you're welcome, man.
It was fun.
Yeah,
It's great
it's
to have you
definitely a
guys.
pleasure.
And of course, once again, I'm always glad to have Yevoani here on the show.
Thank you, Kevin. It's another fun-filled episode this week.
Yeah, because Noel's not going to be in, so he's not going to watch our episodes because he doesn't watch any episode without him in it, apparently.
And, it's the selfishness in him. I think this week's episode was better than last week's.
No, I just think he has a big ass ego.
We talk about Noel?
No, wait.
No,
No, what?
we are. Yes.
Yes,
We
no, maybe, I don't know. Can you repeat the question?
That's who we talking about right now.
Utah.
But so anyway, guys, all goodbyes to all of them. So again, and as the way I ended the way, adieu, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye, mwah, and good night. Bang. This is Fortress Striker signing off.